I received a comment on my last video that made me stop in my tracks. And before I get into what was said, I want to tell you who this person is because it matters more than anything. He keeps showing up in my comments consistently. And what he does when he shows up is remind me that I'm not sending these videos into the void, that this work is reaching someone. And at this stage in my process of what I'm building, that really lands for me. Because the external validation that would tell me that this voice I am building is actually landing, it doesn't always show up still being a new content creator and still finding my audience that this resonates with. And I'll call him Doc. And what Doc said stopped me, not because it was wrong, but because it sounded like the kind of advice that is true and hard at the same time. He was talking about the Ripple lawsuit, about stablecoins, about who is already inside the system building the rails, while the rest of us are still watching from outside the door. And then he said, the way that you weaken that grip is by owning the protocols. I hear that. And this is the first time in this episode I have to say but. But what does ownership actually require right now? Capital, trust, time, access to information that never gets distributed evenly and feels more inaccessible than ever. A financial history and foundation that lets you hold through the volatility without your life requiring you to make a different choice. That last one is the one that does not get talked about honestly. Big money does not have to decide between their portfolio and their life. It can afford to wait. That is not a personal failure for people who cannot do the same. It's a structural condition. And I'm not above it. I'm actually in it. Trying to figure out how to add value in a way that brings something back. How to be a part of the transition and not just a voice describing it. And describing it from outside the door. The conditions that make ownership necessary are the same conditions that make it harder to reach at this moment. Because the high gas prices are real. The wages that do not cover life are real. The corruption being named in public without nothing visibly stopping it is also real. And I believe what that does to people is make them afraid to step into something that they already don't fully trust. Or it makes them too exhausted to give it a try. So the person this technology is supposedly being built for is perhaps watching a world create more and more hurdles to entry at the exact moment entry is supposed to matter the most. And you may say, some of this technology is made for institutions, not for everyday people. But the thing I think most people have forgotten, no matter where they sit in the world, is that institutions don't exist without everyday people that build a foundation for them to sit on. And then this week happened. But this week didn't arrive alone. It arrived on top of everything else that has been accumulating. The petrodollar that held the world in place for over 50 years is repositioning in real time. A war that is being fought over the world's energy in Lego commercials that somehow feel more honest about what is actually happening in the world than anything you might find on the evening news. For years, I and probably you were told that this technology, for it to truly win, the old system would have to come apart. I heard that. I held it as some faraway theory, something that was out ahead of us, something too big to actually imagine. And then this week, I have been watching as multiple warehouses burn in the United States. And I don't know exactly what that means at its core, but I do know it did not look like the collapse I was told to expect. It looks faster, stranger, more disorienting than anything the idea had prepared me for. And I could not look at it without thinking about what I have been watching underneath it for years. The thing that does not burn, the infrastructure being built quietly, while everything on the surface is louder and louder than it has ever been. For the people that found this video, I see you. For those of you that waited out the lawsuit, that watched blockchain adoption move from theory to legislation, that watched this administration make a stated priority, that have been waiting for the market to reflect what you already know is happening underneath it. I know that wait has been hard. I know that life does not always wait the way that hope and belief wait. If you have had to reduce your portfolio or sell it all, you're not alone. I'm here with you. This does not make you less of a person. It doesn't make you a bad investor or a bad believer. Life happens. And we are moving through times that no one has a map for. You still know what you know. Don't give up on that. You're still here. You're still early. For those of you who have held your positioning, have been able to continue adding to it, and still cannot get the people closest to you to see what you see, or whose relationships have taken on the weight of a vision that has not shown itself in the numbers yet, you're not crazy. Seeing something real before it reflects in the real world, it's not a flaw. It's just where we are right now. And for those of you who simply believe, but don't have the emotional bandwidth to hear another date, another promise, another moment of anticipation that cost you something. Something when it doesn't arrive the way it was supposed to. You're safe here. I'm not going to sell you a timeline. I'm not even going to offer you a moment where everything works out on some schedule. What I can offer you is this: a space where we show up, look honestly at what is actually happening, and figure it out. figure out how to move forward with our dignity intact. Even when we are not invited into the rooms where the decisions are being made. That is what this is. And I will be back with what I find. And before I go, because I needed somewhere to figure the last part out and have a space to just talk, somewhere without a script, I started documenting this process somewhere else. The messy part. What it actually looks like to try and build something when you don't know if it's working. I'll leave the link below or in the description, and come over if it's useful for you. I'm James Harris. This is Layer One, and thank you for joining me for another episode. Till the next time. Bye.